How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to the channel and another video. This one is kind of picking up where we left off last time, so this is part 2 of my knife collection video. And I realized, just a quick thing here, I realized after I finished that video that my knife collection is actually kind of, it's not huge like I said at the start of the first part of this, but it's big enough that it might actually, putting it all in one single video is probably going to take up everything on the memory card. So this is part 2, and I think I should be able to just punch the rest of it out into a part 3. So last time we ended off with the first fixed blade that I ever carried, which was that neck knife that wasn't very secure. I carried that thing on and off for a little while, and then kind of switched back and went back to my old Swiss Army knife, purely because it was more convenient, and I didn't have there wasn't a whole lot of risk involved. You know, I wasn't going to cut myself. So a couple months after that, towards the end of 2019, I got this at a local flea market, and I just now realized that this is taking up the whole screen. So let me just see if I can do this. If I pull this back a little bit, perfect, there we go. So this, I saw this, and it's actually this is actually the biggest folding knife in my collection, I think. I think there might actually be one more that might actually be bigger, but we'll get to that. So, deep carry clip, right? So that's what a deep carry clip looks like. Dual studs. This one was spring assisted when I bought it. You can see there's a flipper tab on there. And this thing used to be spring assisted, so you would hit the tab and it would open to there, and then the spring would take over and deploy the blade. I de-assisted it. So the bolster here, there was a spring behind there, and I was just fidgeting with it. It was like a super fidgety knife, and the spring popped out from behind the bolster. So I don't recommend doing this. I took an Allen key, and I can see all the knife enthusiasts in the comment section and everywhere else. All the knife enthusiasts just went, "Oh no!" But I took an Allen key and I took the pivot screw off, and I basically took the bolster off, and I tried to put that spring piece back in place. And when the bolster came off, the rest of the spring came off, and I couldn't figure out where it went. So I just put the spring back in my bag, and put the bolster back on, and it's been a good one. It's been de-assisted ever since. I haven't carried this one a whole lot anymore, mostly because it is a bit of a chunky monkey. Well, that, and I've just got so many knives to choose from. But this is also a very big, like I say, it's a very big knife. And if I'm kind of out and about, and, you know, if I'm in public and I need to, you know, cut something, you know, I would much rather pull out a Swiss Army knife, or, you know, something a little bit more traditional than this. Because that spear point blade, even though it's a fine edge, so there's no serrations on it, and I think serrations is kind of something that scares people a little bit more, but that big blade is kind of a problem, I think. And this actually sits right on the cusp of our maximum carry size here in South Africa. So, liner lock, deep carry clip. It's from a company called Mastiff Knives. I don't know much about the company. Honestly, I don't even know if it's an actual company. I just found this thing at a flea market, and I saw it, and I liked it, so I picked it up. Anyway, so that's the Mastiff. That's actually a fold that I carried for a good while. Let me see now. Where is it? Okay, so the next piece we're going to talk about is also a piece that I got in 2019. This is a very fancy piece. It's one of my favorite pieces. The Higa no Kami. So this has a really cool history. These are made in Japan. You have you know what? I'm not even going to talk about the blade, the grind and the edge and all the rest, because honestly, that's just going to confuse. It's going to confuse me, and it's going to confuse a lot of other people as well. So these have a very cool history. Back in the mid 1890s, I think 1895 or 96, the samurai in Japan, this was kind of I think it was the late Meiji period, and the samurai had kind of fallen out of favor, so carrying a sword was, I love fidgeting with this thing, but carrying a sword was illegal, right? So the samurai could no longer carry a sword, and of course, well, your sword was your status symbol. They couldn't carry that anymore, and because they couldn't carry a sword anymore, a lot of the sort of bladesmiths, the guys that were making all their swords, were very close to just going out of business, because, well, what's the point of making swords if nobody can carry them anymore? And then one clever cookie came up with this idea of taking his sword making skills and making it smaller, giving us this. Now these were very popular when they initially got their start, and a whole lot of other bladesmiths kind of saw the idea, and they all got together, and they trademarked the name, and they trademarked the design. So no other company, my understanding is that the name and the design are patented, and if you want to make one of these yourself, you have to be a part of a special guild, essentially. And I love this thing. I got this for Christmas at the end of 2019, and it's just super fidgety. Like, I can sit and do this all day, even if it'll hurt my fingers, but you know, just a super sleek. There's not a very big profile on that. It's nice and slender, so it slips into a pocket very easily. And as far as first knives go, this is actually not a bad one, because there's very little that you can actually do that's going to hurt you. There's no locking mechanisms to worry about, so that's a plus, especially if you're new to knives. But so yeah, that's a cool piece. I've had it for a good couple of years, and it's going to stay in my collection. I don't carry it very often. It's a nice knife. It goes. I have carried it for special occasions, so it's a kind of a special occasions knife. And each one will have a fancy box with a piece of paper that kind of gives you the history of the knife. So that's 2019 stuff. The other knives that I'm going to just talk about, we're going to start off with this piece. Now this is a knife that I picked this up at a little Chinese shop here locally, from Browning. Again, we have a liner lock, a deep carry clip. It's got a kind of a Tanto point on it, but I like this thing. the one and only complaint, and I had this to a point. If you look at the thumb studs on the Mastiff, the thumb studs on the Browning are just a little bit on the broader side, so they tend to catch, which is one of the reasons I don't really carry this very often. This one is still spring assisted. You can hear that the spring is not as strong as it used to be, but I like this thing. I was going to de-assist it, and then I changed my mind and I kind of just left it as is. It's a nice, compact, it looks kind of boxy, especially in comparison to something like the Mastiff, which has these very clean lines on the handle, so it looks it's nice and ergonomic. And you would think that the Browning has this very like boxy kind of shape to it, but your hand really fits on there nicely, and as long as you're not doing anything ridiculously crazy with this thing, it's not going to break. But, well, it'll break and you'll have to sharpen it, but it won't break if you don't do anything stupid with it. So that I picked up in 2020, so just before the COVID lockdown started. I picked up a knife for my sister for her birthday, and I picked up that little guy for myself. Then, later on in 2020, my dad gave me this. So, it's just a throwing star. The points aren't sharp. I actually used to use this as a fidget spinner. You know, the plastic fidget spinners just didn't seem useful or practical, and they just looked kind of silly to me. But I sat there and I'm just fidgeting with this thing at my desk, and so the edges, there are no sharp edges on this. The points are still a little bit on the pointy side, so that can be a little bit uncomfortable on your skin, but it's not going to cut you. I like the dragon in the middle there. If I can get the camera to focus. Come on, camera. I had it the wrong way around as well. That doesn't really help, does it? Yeah, okay, I think that's about as good as it's going to get. But my dad used to do Bujinkan Ninjutsu, and that was, I don't know if this was something that he trained with, or if it was just something that he saw in a knife shop and just picked it up because he liked it. He and I are kind of the same in that way. We look at knives and we go, oh, yeah, that looks cool. And we kind of, like, what's his name? Kurt at Blade HQ. The crow who collects shiny things. Okay, and then kind of the last knife that I want to talk about for this part of the collection setup is this piece. This is the Caliber Steenbok. So we have, it's just a nice, it's got a nice broad blade, back lock, right, so my hands are all slippery. So you press down on that disengages the blade, then you can close it. Fine edge, or plain edge rather, very simple, sleek little blade. This is typically a little bit smaller than I would typically get, because my hand it's kind of a 3-finger knife, but there's just enough on the bottom there for my little finger to just wrap right around the bottom, and I can really, I've opened a lot of boxes with this thing, I've cut a lot of biltong with it, and these things, I've got 2 other knives from Caliber, and in my experience, every single one of them is razor sharp straight out the box. Okay, and every single one of them, all 3 of them have drawn blood. So there's that. The handles are think it's steel bolsters and then actual proper rosewood handles, which is always nice. The Browning and the Mastiff have these sort of plastic, the plastic wood scales, and I'm actually thinking about taking those off and putting a proper wood scale on there. But at the same time, I kind of just like them the way they are. So there is a nail nick on there, but my nails are very short because I have a really bad habit of chewing on them. So my nails are very, very short, but I don't need to worry about that with this because, well, like I said, like you guys can see, it's a big, broad blade. I can just grab the blade. Now, this particular piece came with this. So this is a leather pouch, beautifully made. It fits in there like that. Snap that shut. That blade's not going anywhere until you need it. As far as availability goes, I mean, the Higanakami and Throwing Stars, you can get those on Amazon very easily. The Browning and the Mastiff are knives that I picked up at flea markets. This is only available, and caliber knives in general are only available at one of our local outdoor goods places here in South Africa, as far as I know. So, unfortunately, if you live in the States or elsewhere, you know, I don't know that you guys would be able to get to get a hold of this. Okay, so that is part 2. That concludes part 2. I just want to see about something else. Was there something else? 1, 2, 3. You know what? I think there was. Actually, there was something else. Oy, owie. Okay. So, Christmas 2020. So I bought the Steenbok kind of as a special thing just for myself. I don't really buy knives at retailers very often because they are very expensive. But you know what? I'd had a good work month, felt like spoiling myself. And then a couple of weeks after I bought that, it was Christmas, of course, and my sister got me this. Now, if I can get it out of the sheath, that would help. Okay, so we have I think it's a Microtech. Can someone correct me in the comments if I'm wrong? Is that a Microtech logo? I know they've got something called the Micro Hawk, which looks pretty similar to this. But this thing it's sharp up at the top. It's sharp there. It's got a nasty looking point on the end there. The cord wrap is a bit loose, but it's tight enough that I can hold on to it, and I don't use it. So I think this is actually like a throwing hawk, like one of those little throwing axes. And I can't bring myself to throw it. It's too nice. And you know, so there's that. And it came with this sheath, so that's the sheath for it. Generally speaking, I'm not a huge fan of nylon sheaths. My experience has been that nylon sheaths just don't last. But this has lasted quite a bit, and that could be because I don't use the Hawk at all. It's pretty much just a display piece at the moment. Well, I say at the moment, but I don't think that it's going to get a whole lot of use. But yeah, just a little hawk, something a little bit fun for the collection. Okay, so for real this time, that concludes part 2 of the knife collection. I will see you for part 3, and with any luck, we will actually conclude this back then. So, thank you guys for watching. I'll see you for the next one. Take care.